Are you struggling with bosses, spiral beasts, or some enemies in the game? Or maybe you don't just know that actually having some skills in these games really matters and can improve your level? LordTeox here, and today I will help you solve this problem and bring your skills to the next level with 5 simple tips. First things we're going to talk about is your position in the field and why it is important to have the camera in the right direction. Taking a good position during combat allowed you to hit more enemy at the same time, and since almost all of the enemy in Genshin Impact they will try to reach you, and so if you play smart you can easily gather all the enemy in one place and try to kill them, maybe with some ultimate or with some nice powerful attack. 90% of the ultimate of the game requires the camera to be in the right angle to be used in the right way. So for example, if your enemies are in front of you, your camera needs to be point in front of you. So pointing the camera in the bad direction will make you miss the ultimate in certain cases, and will also end up having a bad perspective of the fight in general and all the enemies around you. Now that you know how to move in the field, let's talk about when the enemies engage you and what you can do in this case. In Genshin Impact, compared to the other games, there is no parry. So apart from a certain character and their special mechanics like maybe Beidou, but generally the only way to not take in any direct damage is a shield. So one of the most important mechanics you need to learn as fast as you can is how to dodge the attack. Dodge the attack at the right timing will give you a frame of invulnerability that allowed you to not take any damage. So of course, depending on the enemies, the attack, or the characters you are trying to use or you're trying to dodge, the result will be different most of the time. Be careful that, of course, that if you dodge badly and you have a bad timing, you will end up taking all the damages, and sometimes it can really cost you a lot. So manage to do this against all the enemies will make your combat going more smoothly and also more safe. So you really need to practice on that. So you know where you need to be, you know how to not take any damage, and so now is your turn to do some damage. Depending on which character you use, you will have different attack animation. Some of them they are very fast and others they are very slow. In the general rules of for 90% of the character, the last attack of the combo you will do will most of the time push the enemies away or maybe stun them. So for example, if you're using a spear character, this is the result against a small enemy. If instead you want to keep the enemy closer to you, you will need to do what we normally call like a cancelling of the animation, which allowed you to attack the enemy against right away after you cancel the animation because you're not pushing away the enemy. There are multiple ways to do that, and the easiest one is to use the dodge mechanic we learned a couple of minutes ago. When you're using a claymore, is exactly the same mechanic, but the last attack of the claymore is much more slower than the spear. So you can use the same trick as before to continuously attack the enemies. Be aware that since the last attack is very slow, this might leave you a big window for the enemies to attack you, and that can cost you your character's life. With the bow you can attack the enemies in the same way you do with the other weapons, and you can also try to release a much powerful attack by charging the shot. Be aware that unfortunately if you charge the shot and you try to dodge maybe an attack, or you try to move for having a better angle for your shot, the charge shot will be cancelled. I really wish in one way that in this case they have a kind of similar mechanic when like you play Monster Hunter and you have the bow and at the same time you move your character will charge the shot, but maybe this is too much action, I will say, or will never be implemented, but this is definitely a cool mechanic they can add. Also, charging doesn't make you invulnerable, so be careful. Another way to cancel your attack animation is by jumping. It's a mechanic that I don't really recommend in general. In this way you can see how it's not that much as effective as dodging. So if you want to try to do it, if you feel comfortable to do it, just try it, but again, it's not something that I really recommend you to do it. In this case we can see how a ledge can easily help us doing some jumping attack on top of the monster that will allow them to break the shield much faster, or in case an enemy doesn't have the shield, to stun it very fast. And after using what we learned, we can keep the enemy closer to us and try to finish him off as fast as we can. As you might already notice, especially when you attack with the claymore, another nice mechanic who allows you to keep the enemies under your control is the stun. So be able to stun the enemy, it's very important to prevent that an enemy actually attacks you, especially for the one that are very annoying like the Fatui mage or some Fatui in general. So if you're using a claymore, it's not very complicated to do that. You can also achieve the same result with some ultimate, with maybe some elemental skill, some shield or other weapon in general. You really need to know when the enemy can be stunned or not, and that for sure will save you a lot of time and sometimes even your character life. Last tips I have for you guys is related to the first one we talk about, the dodge mechanic and the frame of invulnerability you will have. So most of the ultimate in the game, especially the one you see at the screen right now, if you place it at the right time will create a huge window where your character cannot take any damage. So this mechanic will help you to survive in a lot of occasions where you're basically dead, and also allows you to maybe freeze your enemy or heal your party, for example with Barbara ulti, and at the same time don't take any damage. So now that you learn all of this simple mechanic, I'm sure that you will approach the game in a little bit different direction. And of course what we was before maybe a scary boss like the Electro boss we use an example, now is not a problem anymore. Thank you so much for watching guys, I really hope you learned something, and if you want to see more guides like this one, make sure to subscribe to the channel and press the like button on your favorite videos. In this way you can support me and my channel. See you next time, ciao ciao.